Hey guys, Sam here, and here is another review for the month of love. And National Grapefruit Month. Yep, you learn something new every day. So I guess it should be time to cut this guy some slack. Whoa! Get it? Cut. I flattered myself. Anyway, since I'm reviewing love-centered episodes this month, and since I've done Big Nate comic dubs in the past, there have been a couple people that wanted me to take a look at the show. For those that don't know, Big Nate is a comic strip that started back in 1991. It's about a 6th grader named Nate Wright. He's a talented cartoonist, plays sports, is a god at chess, but is also selfish, egotistical, and narcissistic. Normally he has those qualities bite him in the bum, he doesn't care about school, and normally fails at getting the ladies. And when he does get a girlfriend, it doesn't last for too long. He has a few friends like Francis, Teddy, Dee Dee, Chad, and so on, and his big goal is to become big and famous, while trying to somehow pass the classes that he mostly hates, mainly social studies because of Mrs. Godfrey, and not get detention every single day. This was, and still is, a popular comic strip. It even managed to spawn a successful 8-book series too, so it seems natural that a show about the comic would happen eventually. It took over 30 years, but the show was finally made. And the show does have a Valentine's Day special too, so it's only fitting that I watch this for my next review in the month of love. Alright, let's see how it is. It was something. Okay, to get it out of the way, I have mixed thoughts on the Big Nate show. I grew up with the comic strip, love the books, and I have done Big Nate comic dubs in the past to show my appreciation for it. So when I heard that the show was coming out soon, I was excited. I actually made a video about how excited I was and talked about what I personally wanted to see from it. Well, the show is out now, and like I said, I'm mixed on it. It does have some good things here and there, but there are some glaring flaws. What do I mean by that? Well, let's start the review on its Valentine's Day special, and you'll see what I mean. And you know the drill at this point, summary first, thoughts afterwards. Good, let's begin. It's Valentine's Day at PS38. On this day, Nate wants to finally confess his romantic feelings to his crush Jenny. He's even got a card and everything. But there are some downsides. 1, she's already going out with Arter. And 2, he wants to tell Jenny how he feels by performing some kind of grand gesture, in a way that'll get her attention and get her to dump Arter and go out with him. Well, he gets his chance when he finds out that an art contest is going on. The winner of the contest will get to host a pizza party. So, Nate sneaks into the room that has all the other submissions, shreds them, and just leaves his art as the only thing to judge. Unsurprisingly, he wins the contest and decides to give everyone in his grade the pizza. The pizza is delivered, the kids like it, and it seems like Nate is on top of the world. Now all he has to do is confess his feelings to Jenny and everything will be perfect. But there's one teensy-weensy little problem. The restaurant that gave the pizza to the school just so happened to accidentally not tell them that the pizza was covered in toxic waste. This gives all the people that eat the pizza food poisoning and makes them start vomiting. You name it, Francis, Teddy, Mr. Galvin, the lunch lady, nearly everyone gets sick. The only ones that don't seem to be affected by the pizza are Nate, Dee Dee, and Jenny. So, with everything going to hell, Principal Nichols starts going crazy. You see, before all this, he was expecting some inspectors to come to the school, and he feared that the school could lose funding or get shut down if it's not judged well. So, despite nearly everyone getting sick, Nichols thinks that if he can get some more healthy students and put them in one class while locking every other door, the inspectors will come, see that everything is fine, and let the school pass. With that mindset, Nichols does some really questionable things like locking the school entrance, not tending to the sick kids, and even thinking that giving the kids expired cookies is a good idea. Newsflash, it isn't. How do I know? Well, when Nate and Jenny try to hide with Dee Dee in the kitchen, those cookies are what get Dee Dee sick. Yeah, she ate them by accident, and now she's a goner too. Now it's down to just Nate and Jenny. They lock themselves in a classroom and try to stay safe. While doing that, Nate is trying to figure out how to confess his feelings to her despite being so nervous. If this is going to be the end, he wants to get it out now. But he gets the encouragement he needs after getting advice from one of his comic strip characters, Dan Cupid. He basically says, don't overthink it, just relax and enjoy the moment. You'll never know if they will be the one until you find out. So, Nate takes his Valentine out and is about to confess his feelings to Jenny, only to get sick himself. Yeah, he ate a pepperoni earlier and now he becomes a sick mess too. Jenny runs off while leaving Nate behind, which makes his plan end in failure. But if you thought that sucked, get a load of this. Despite all the chaos that happened today, Principal Nichols eventually finds a note that tells him that the inspectors canceled their appointment with the school today and will reschedule for another time. This makes Nichols both relieved and lose his mind, and through the wall he goes. And the episode ends with him having his meltdown while Nate vows to find a way to tell Jenny how he feels about her another time. After he's done puking his guts out, of course. The end. So that's the episode. What are my thoughts? Let's talk about the good stuff first before I get into the bad stuff. First, the animation is really good. You can tell they put a lot of effort when making the characters and the backgrounds. It's colorful, the details are well done, the characters are designed nicely. I actually don't mind them having fully detailed eyes instead of lines for eyes. And when the episode does get very scary, gloomy, and almost apocalyptic, the animators do a good job with the greens and the shadows. It's certainly a Valentine's Day of horror indeed. Second, the voice acting is mostly good too. I personally don't like Randy's voice, and I think Mr. Galvin's voice is a bit off, but everyone else does sound fine. Nate, Francis, Teddy, Dee Dee, Mr. Rosa, Chad, and Principal Nichols, to name a few. They give a lot of effort in their performances, and it does seem like they're having fun. And no, I'm not better than Nickelodeon didn't cast me as Nate. Ben Giroux, or however you say his last name, is a talented guy, and he has more experience than me. Third, seeing a scary apocalyptic Valentine's Day special is kind of unique. I don't think I've seen something like that before. After all, Valentine's Day is supposed to be about love, kindness, flowers, chocolates, lovely hearts, and more. Imagine if somebody said, oh yeah, it's all those things, plus vomiting. Yeah, I know, I've used that joke before, but I still find it to be funny. Fourth, there are some characters that are written well in this episode, and there are some jokes that work. Nate and Dee Dee are actually done pretty well in this episode, and they do have some of the funniest dialogue too.
Whoa, you can't just dump a Valentine's Day card on Jenny without some warning, especially a homemade one.
Okay, why?
She could freak out and you'd end up scaring her off. Not that it isn't already terrifying enough that you've been secretly stalking her for the last 6 years.
Hey, she was out with foot and mouth for much of 3rd grade, so technically it's 5 years. She's out there, in the elements.
It's Sunny.
Alone.
She's with her boyfriend.
We need to make sure she's okay, this is love!
Sorry, what's your name again? Oh. Ouch.
I also did chuckle when Principal Nichols was trying to be hip by doing the floss, and Nate has this reaction when walking away. Not gonna lie, that was funny. And fifth, I do like the advice that Dan Cupid gives Nate, and I honestly don't mind having Nate's creations coming to life and giving him some guidance. Basically, he just tells him to relax and don't overthink it, and you never know if your crush will be the one until you actually find out. Honestly, that's not bad advice, and I did kind of feel bad that Nate didn't get the chance to confess because he got sick. Yeah, I know the stuff with Arthur and she's already going out with him, but Nate deserved to at least tell her how he feels. As someone who's had many crushes in the past and had a lot of them fail, that was a moment I could relate to. So there is some good stuff in it. But just because there is some good in it doesn't mean it's perfect. There are some problems I have with it. First, this love jingle that plays in the episode. It was okay the first time they played it, but after it's used again and again and again with little to no variation, it does get old and annoying after a while. It kind of reminded me of this love jingle used for Noah and Emma in the Redonkulous race. Again, it's not bad on its own, but when it's used constantly, it gets annoying. Second, while some characters are written fine like Nate, Dee Dee, Chad, and Mr. Rosa to name a few, there are some that are not written well. And maybe it's because I've grown up with the comics and books that makes me kind of biased, but this is probably something that even animation fans in general might have with these characters. For example, Francis and Teddy aren't exactly fleshed out characters in this episode. In fact, they're not really given much to work with. And that sucks because I know these two are Nate's best friends. They've been that way for many, many years. But if this was the first episode you saw of this show, and this was the first time you were introduced to these characters, you probably would know that they were really Nate's best friends. You'd probably think that Dee Dee was the best friend because Nate and Dee Dee have much more chemistry with each other in the episode. Also, Nate's crush, Jenny, doesn't have much of a personality. She just kind of acts like this valley girl who looks at her phone and goes, I'm so bored, That's not really what Jenny is like. In the comics and books, she could be nice, thoughtful, and sweet, especially towards her boyfriend Arthur, but she could also be feisty and very nasty, especially if you cross her, like Nate does plenty of times. And on top of that, she has known Nate for so long. They've grown up together, and on top of that, she hates him. Literally hates him. Now, there are a few nice moments between the two of them, and they do become friends later, but only after Nate gave up trying to chase her and acted like a lovesick puppy around her. In the episode, she's just like, do I know you? I'm sorry, but that's not a good change. It just makes her not interesting, and you just wonder what Nate really sees in her other than just looks. There's also Arthur. Now, most of the time, he's written fine here. He's naive, oblivious to Nate not liking him, and very friendly. That is Arthur. But then we get this scene where he and Jenny are stuck in a closet together. He starts talking about staying in there forever and possibly eating back hair in order to survive. Okay, Arthur is a lot of things, but a gross weirdo is not one of them. Also, Mr. Galvin wasn't exactly a kind of creepy and lonely lackey to Principal Nichols that goes along with his many insane schemes. He was just an old science teacher with virtually no sense of humor. I'm sure you could still make him interesting without making him go, I think that's great, and do all this really weird stuff with him in order to try and make him, well, like I said, weird and bizarre. But honestly, the worst character that was changed for no real reason was Principal Nichols. In the comics and books, he could be nice, goofy, and he may try a little too hard to be hip with the students, but he was still an authority figure, someone who could be strict when he had to be, and someone that could also give good advice from time to time. In the show, he's kind of a dick. He worries so much about what the inspectors will think of the school that he ends up doing some terrible things that make the situation worse. He locks the doors, doesn't call the students' parents so they can pick them up, doesn't help the sick kids, continues to come up with new plans so the school will pass even though it is beyond that at this point, and even thinks giving the kids expired cookies from 1821 is a good idea. Well, what if they're just suggestions? Dude, come on. Hell, there are times when food even goes stale before the expiration date. You allowed kids to try cookies that were 2 centuries old. There's being silly and ignorant, and then there's just being a total idiot. And if they were trying to be funny with this stuff, I'm sorry, it just wasn't. And this just isn't Principal Nichols to me. And also, yeah, the note at the end, that was kind of stupid too. It's a pretty standard twist that happens in a lot of cartoons, and all it did was just confirm that all the BS that Principal Nichols did was for friggin' nothing. But there's more. The vomiting in the episode was a bit much for me. Now, I'm not that squeamish, but just looking at this stuff made me feel uneasy. Well, I guess it did its job. It is the Valentine's Day of horror after all, but maybe it did it a little too well. All I'm saying is that it wasn't easy to watch some of my favorite characters start puking their guts out because of food poisoning. You know, as I was watching this episode, I realized something. This is kind of similar to the episode from Gumball called The Joy. In that one, all the kids at Elmore Junior High get infected by the Joy, and the school turns apocalyptic too. Instead of green vomit, it's rainbow spit, and they are more like zombies than just sick people. So why do I believe that episode works better and this doesn't? Well, one is because it was funnier. Two, this kind of show could get away with crazy crap like this a lot based on its tone and characters. And three, I was more invested in that episode rather than this one. Also, the rainbow spit or vomit was not too disgusting. That, along with everything else in it, like the unnerving ending and some of the dark visuals, were just enough to make the episode creepy and disturbing, but still funny and fun to watch. Big Nate's Valentine's Day of Horror just didn't do that for me. Its jokes didn't work as consistently, some characters were not written well, the story was a little bit too predictable, and the unpleasant puking just didn't make this episode that good to me. But, at the same time, it does have good animation, solid voice acting, some good jokes, and they did manage to write some of the characters fine here. So, it's a tough call. It's certainly not great, but it's not terrible either. So, I guess the best score I can give it is a 5 out of 10. Again, not horrible, but it could have been solid if the writing and jokes were better. And honestly, I hope that the other episodes in this show did get better with time. Let me know in the comments below if you have seen some other episodes from the show. Let me know if it's gotten better or worse. Okay, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And also, let me know what you think of this show and this episode in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, my name is Sam, and good night, everybody.